Today, we're going to be talking about the Agile mindset, how businesses are transforming. So, what does it mean given the context that we live right now, the technological context and the social context? What are the impacts that businesses are actually facing right now, and how can we cope with that? And how can Agile actually help businesses thrive nowadays? We are going through a moment of disruptive innovation. This is nothing new. Everybody knows about that. If you think about Airbnb, how it has disrupted the hotel industry, Uber, how it has disrupted the taxi industry, right? And which is insane. If you think about the fintech world, how it has profoundly disrupted the banking industry, the finance industry. It's really crazy. These fintechs ranging from usual banks to insurance apps, if I can say so. They have been, most of my clients here, they are from the finance industry. And I can tell you for a fact that these guys are suffering a lot with the coming up of this fintechs. Nowadays, you can have a bank if you have the idea and the funding. Right now, I can make sure that in 6 months you can download my bank, so you can download my app and start using open your bank account, right? All through the app, order your credit card, and start doing transactions in only 6 months. So that's really crazy. If you take a huge bank, like for example, Bank of America or Barclays, they do not nowadays, with all their historical knowledge, they cannot put into production a new credit card in only 6 months. All right. So technologically speaking, we're going through crazy disruptive innovation, and socially speaking, everybody's quarantined right now. So we have COVID-19 outbreak going on the planet. We have today about 2.5 billion people quarantined on the planet, right? Um, More than half of the U.S. population is quarantined right now too, and we're going through a social disruption. We're going through social disruption, which is crazy, and this disruption actually fosters digital transformation even more, because right now, if you're not used to work home office, well, you have to right now. So besides the technological disruption, we have a social disruption going on. So businesses are not going to be the same. The world is going to be completely different when this outbreak finishes, when the quarantine is over. All right. So the relationship between employees and employer, they're going to be different, because I'm going to tell you guys a secret. They're going to find out that most of the work, if I could risk a number, maybe I would say 50%. 50% of what you do in the office, people are going to identify that you can do this at home with the same level of performance. That's going to be game changing. All right. So if you think about that, from the comfort of your home right now, you can access anything you want, any type of service. You can order food, you can watch videos, you can purchase anything you want, right? And what we see now is a profound breakdown of traditional entry barriers, right? Which is actually leading us to an intersection of domains. Nike, for example, was just a sneakers company. Until then, I remember when they launched that little gadget that you put inside the sneaker, and then you purchase an app or like a Fitbit type of wristwatch, and you could track and download and have a, you know, like a graph of your running performance all around. And it was quite interesting. So I can watch Spotify from my cell phone. I can listen to Spotify music from my cell phone, from my TV. I can Uber using my phone. I can also Uber using my laptop. So this intersection of domains is the greater indicator of digital disruption, right? And there's no place to hide. Everybody got to be aware that, hey, my company nowadays, the way people communicate, the way people um, demand services from my company is changing. So I don't know if you guys remember or heard about this incident in 2017 in a United Airlines flight. There was a Vietnamese passenger who was forcibly removed from his seat because the flight was overbooked. All right. And forcibly, meaning people didn't grab him by the arm and pull him out of his seat. He was like, there were two security guys pulling him violently out of the plane. It was really awful. Well, it happens that one of the passengers shoot a video of all this happening, and it went viral. Because of that, United Airlines lost $205 million in market valuation. That's crazy, right? So customers nowadays are very demanding. They demand more services. They want lower prices, and they want right now. All right, that's crazy. So by 2030, 75% of the workforce is going to be comprised by millennials. All right, what does it mean? Well, I can tell you from my experience, I am 43 years old, so I'm not a millennial. All right, I have some difficulties using some of the apps that you guys download all the time. Right, I just recently well, Instagram went through some kind of uh, update, and I was having some difficulties in you know going live on Instagram because I'm doing a lot of things right now due to this quarantine. I'm start working at 5, 6, 4 a.m. all the way to late night because of the different time zones, and I can tell you, these guys, so you guys millennials, you tick different. Okay, you want to have a button, you want to swipe anything, and you want it right now. So this has a tremendous impact on the industry. This has a tremendous impact on companies. Okay, so why is that? Because when we are when information is made available to us, and nowadays we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data on a daily basis. So that's crazy. Another crazy statistic would be that 90% of the world's data today has been created in the last 2 years alone. That is a lot of data. That's a lot of data. What does it mean? This means we get addicted to information. All right? We get addicted to information. It means that everybody is providing a lot of information to customers worldwide. All right? So this means if you stop providing information, there's no place to dig time. So it has several implications to come to corporations. One of them is that it doesn't matter how much information you are providing, right? It doesn't matter how much information I, as a corporation, am providing. Why? Well, because you're just doing your job. You have to create a lot of information because everybody's doing so, and people are addicted to information. Now, what really matters is what are you doing with this information? How fast can you create more information to extract so people can extract? How easy is it for people to extract data out of this information you're creating? So you have so the creation of information, that was like a big deal up to maybe 10 years ago, but nowadays it's just commonplace. You have to create that. So survival is under threat. If you are not able to create information fast enough and give people easy data to consume, you have a problem, right? We right now, as Klaus Schwab, the founding chairman of the World Economic Forum, he very rightly said, we stand on the brink of a technological revolution that's going to fundamentally change the way we live, we work, and relate to one another. And on top of that, we have the crazy coronavirus COVID-19 outbreak. So we are forcibly removed from the office, and now we are forcibly having to work home office. That's unprecedented in the history of mankind. All right. How can Agile help you guys? How can Agile help your organization to thrive in this very unique moment in our history? The Scrum Alliance has conducted surveys with several corporations, huge corporations like Ericsson, Google, Amazon, Barclays, IBM, and so on, in order to understand what are the top benefits of organizational agility. What do you guys feel? And they said faster time to market. This is something that's commonplace today. If you have an idea and you don't put it into market in the upcoming maybe 3 to 6 months, well, somebody did that already, right? I told you that if you have a fintech, a bank, can come online from ideation to operation in only 6 months. All right, faster innovation. So this means I got to create as much information as possible in order to find one that's disruptive, in order to find maybe a couple of them that can be considered as being innovative. So that's really crazy, right? Now, enterprises struggling with change are those that think of profit instead of purpose, are those that foster hierarchy instead of flexible networks, are those that are process driven instead of people driven. All right. So I'm not going to go through all these lines here. I just wanted to understand and kind of have a comparison between enterprises that are thriving and enterprises that are changing, why that is happening. So changes organizations have made to become agile are, well, range from introducing a flatter structure all the way to hiring a third-party consultant. So like me, for example, right? So this also comes from this study, from this survey conducted by the Scrum Alliance and Forbes. Now, so it means people know, company executives, C-level people, they know that times are changing and they're doing something about it. And what's the most common thing that they're going to be doing? They're going to be looking for an adoption of Agile, right? They're going to be hiring maybe, I don't know, maybe a small consulting shop, a local consulting company, or maybe a multinational like McKinsey, in order to adopt Agile, go through a transformation project. Now the question is this enough? So you see over there, the Agile Manifesto, right? What does it mean to implement these things in my company? Am I going to have difficulties adopting Agile? Am I going to have difficulties scaling Agile? One thing's for sure, you will. And it's not because it's hard, it's just that doing Agile is completely different from being Agile. I mean, I'm trying to pronounce the word Agile so people can relate to it better. So doing Agile is different from being Agile. What does it mean? Doing Agile means pick one of the Agile methods and put into practice. That's very easy. For example, Scrum, the most popular Agile method there is. Some research indicates that around 80% of all the corporations doing Agile, they're doing some type of Scrum, right? Being Agile means I'm going to get the Agile Manifesto. So you see why I showed you the Agile Manifesto. I got to get the Agile manifesto. I got to get the 12 principles behind the manifesto. And I have to somehow ingrain this thing into my corporate culture. And that's when problems begin. All right? Because it's not easy. Because I cannot now pay close attention to what I'm going to tell you now. I cannot change the culture without changing the structure. So structure eats culture for breakfast. All right. Do not think that you can, even though you have the best education or maybe the best consultant on the planet, that you can just go into a company and say, hey, we're going to conduct several workshops here, and then everybody's going to change their culture. It's not going to work. All right. I've done this multiple times in many companies. It doesn't matter the size of the company, you have to change structure. And by structure, I mean not only the pyramid hierarchy that you have over there, but on top of the pyramid hierarchy, so all the little boxes, who's the boss, C-level, and then you have a supervisor, coordinator, maybe a project manager, all these things, so the company structure over there. On top of that, you have how people actually communicate, how things get done in the corporation. Okay, so that's company structure, and this needs to change because without addressing systemic issues, right? It's simply not going to work. The cookie cutter approach, like the one size fits all type of approach, doesn't work. When the approach that I use for a company in in Hyderabad, India, is not the same. I'm going to use the same approach that I'm going to use for a company in Europe or Germany, or for a company in Brazil, or for a company in the US. I have to change. I need to have enough emotional intelligence, enough tools in my bag, in my transformation bag, in order to make sure it's going to happen, right? And one of the things that I've identified is that visibility of issues is seen as a problem. Well, I'm a company executive. I have worked really hard to climb the corporate ladder. And you know what? I don't want people seeing that I'm failing. So that's an issue. Leaders are feeling threatened. And they're feeling threatened because they have worked a lot to get to where they are right now. All right. And then all of a sudden, a consultant comes and says, hey, we need to foster self-managing teams. So what does it mean? What do I have to gain by fostering self-managing teams? Okay. So people are actually having wrong expectations. Company executives, when they see it up there in their, strata, their throne, they have no idea what the implications are when they say, we have to do Scrum, right? And nowadays, it's even more common to find company executives stating that we have to go all out Scrum, right? You guys probably heard about Scrum at scale, all right? So adapting agile practices, methods, and frameworks is a good start, but it's not enough, because complexity is all around us. A company, a corporation, is a complex adaptive system. And it means that it's not the corporation is not the simply sum of its parts. All right. So Martin Reeves, the co-author of Your Strategy Needs a Strategy, published by the Harvard Business Review, stressed the companies are identical to biological species in an important respect. They are both complex adaptive systems. And what does it mean? Let's take a look at it. First, it's a collection of relatively similar and partially connected microstructures. All right, keep that in mind. I'm going to talk about that. You're going to see that these microstructures you know by heart. Okay. Number two, formed in order to adapt to the change in environment. So it means they need to have autonomy to operate. And number three, to increase its survivability as a macro structure, Okay, there we go. Now, they are complex in that they are a dynamic network of interactions. And number two, their relationships are not aggregations of the individual static entities. That's what I told you. I can't take a corporation and think about a simply deterministic view, because it's very deterministic to think that my corporation is just the simply sum of its departments. Not exactly like that. All right. So this has a very profound implication. It means that if I go into a specific department and apply improvement measures over there, I am not necessarily, that's very important what I'm going to tell you now, I am not necessarily improving the system, okay? So they are adaptive in that the individual and collective behaviors mutate and they self-organize according to change initiating events. So it's a complex adaptive system, Agile. If you think of agility as being something like operating somehow like sense, adapt, respond, they kind of are, right? In the worst case scenario, Agile is going to fit very well in a complex adaptive system, all right? Why do I say that Agile adoption isn't enough? Because it's just the operating system for this whole complex structure. We got to understand the system in order to actually achieve fundamental structural change. All right? So remember that I told you that a complex adaptive system is a collection of autonomous parts, right? What are these autonomous parts? They are known. I told you know them very well. They are actually Scrum teams, okay? Well, you don't have to call them Scrum teams if you don't want. If you take a look at Zappos is a company based on Silicon Valley. They're billions valuated, but market valuation right now is tens of billions of dollars, if I'm not mistaken. And they have a flat hierarchy. Actually, they don't have a hierarchy. They have a hierarchy, as they say. It's called a holacracy. And they don't call it Scrum teams. They just call it circles. A circle in that context is just a group, an emergent group of autonomous agents, meaning groups of people, teams of people that are autonomous, meaning they can make decisions, they can determine what they're going to do, they can determine how they're going to do it, all right? So they don't necessarily need a product owner for that. So that's another level of autonomy, all right? So this has a very important implication for you as a change agent. If you go to a company and you implement Scrum over there, what you are fundamentally doing as a systems thinker, from a systems thinker perspective, all these things that I'm telling you about is related to systems thinking, right? So from a systems thinking perspective, what you are actually doing is you are creating, I can say creating a management 3.0 cell inside a management 1.0 structure, all right? Nothing good can happen out of that, all right? So it's gonna be a very bumpy road. This is why agile adoptions are hard, because you create like a Frankenstein. The company becomes a Frankenstein. So the implications are, number one, think of continuous evolution and have a beta approach. A beta approach means, you know what, just get started. Get educated about Scrum. Get educated about systems thinking, all right? Nowadays, on the planet, one of the best places to get educated about Scrum and systems thinking, to understand systems behavior, is attending a CSM training, all right? A certified Scrum Master training. If you get a good trainer, like me, for example, I talk a lot about systems thinking in my trainings. It's fundamental. Think of autonomous and self-organizing agents. Have a responsive structure. Build an autonomous Scrum team. That's fundamental. All right. And I don't know, I couldn't stress this enough, but you got to link purpose to work. Give people purpose. It's very important that you give people purpose. Think about that. Why is it that people from Apple, why is it that these guys are so proud to put the shirt, t-shirt, and say, I work for Apple, I work for Microsoft, I work for Skype? Because these companies have a purpose, a clear purpose, and people are therefore, they relate to the purpose, and they are therefore very proud in saying that they work over there. Are you gonna, now I've never seen nobody from a big bank extremely, proud or bragging about the fact that they work for the bank. Why is that? So food for thought for you guys. Think of variety, right, as a source of strength, and cultivate diversity. That's very important. The more people think different, the better. Remember, in these Scrum teams that you're going to be creating, these little management 3.0 cells that you're going to be creating, they will be emergent, meaning they're gonna have behavior to adapt to specific events that's going to happen in the system. And there will be, because it's a complex adaptive system, no linear relationship between cause and effect. So it's not deterministic, meaning if this, then that doesn't happen there. So you need shorter feedback loops to experiment in order to understand why things are happening the way they are. And remember, there's a fine line between order and chaos. So you need to balance that by giving enough autonomy to these cells, to these Scrum teams, in order for them to behave as expected. How do they behave as expected? Well, you just give them simple rules. For example, how is it that a city can run the way a city runs? We have simple rules as citizens. If you go around, grab a car, there's a traffic light, there's a traffic sign, and you know that you're not supposed to walk on the sidewalk, for example. You're not supposed to run over people. You're not supposed to cut off people on the traffic. So these are simple rules that everybody follows. And well, I'm just giving the example of the traffic system. But if you think of it as a city as a whole, we have some law enforcement or rule enforcement agents across the city, right? And on top of that, you have the rules, and everybody is working and going about their day and doing the things, and it works. Do you understand? Can you imagine how crazy it would be, and very economically impossible, if I had, for every traffic light in the city, I need to have a law enforcement agent? It would be economically completely impossible. You understand? So giving simple rules to people and trusting them to get it done sometimes is much better than completely command and control. So the Agile mindset and culture ecosystem is comprised of several variables, and we have prepared this diagram for you guys. We have variables that you can influence. We have variables that can be influenced, that you should be influenced, and which is the mindset and culture. Remember, to change culture, I need to change behavior and enterprise values. How do I do that? I need to change structure, right? The variables intervene, variables which are outcomes and which cannot be directly influenced, all right? That's the idea. So in kind of putting all the pieces, bits and pieces of everything we've been talking about in the presentation together, well, it would look like this, all right? So if you think about, all right, Heitor, give me some help, give me a framework for enterprise action. Here we go. First thing, align leadership on the need for change. That's very important. And the biggest champions and detractors of agility in today's organizations are these guys here, all right? What's interesting is that, so this is again from the survey by the Scrum Alliance and Forbes. What's interesting here is that the strength that employees have as champions is weighs as much as a CIO and CTO. That's very interesting, okay? So what this picture shows us is that it doesn't matter if I go for a top-down approach or bottom-up approach, okay? Either one works. As long as leadership is aligned, as long as leadership understands that, yeah, it's an unknown road ahead. It's going to be a bumpy road ahead, okay? But we need to overcome the fear of the unknown. We need to address concerns. Let me know your concerns. Let me try. I have to prepare workshops for senior leaders in order to educate them so that they are mentally ready for change, right? They need to understand it's not going to be easy and they need to be part of the change. I remember I was going, now that's a very funny story, interesting story for you guys. I was having after almost 3-hour meeting with C-level executives and the owner and the CEO of a huge investment bank here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The owner said, well, you know what, I think we're trying to actually make things more bureaucratic than they are. Well, interesting, because I had presented to them Scrum at scale. And he mentioned, he was kind of, that's the fear of the unknown. He was kind of addressing the concern that, hey, do you really want me to be part of a Scrum team? Seriously? Well, I'm not sure I need to change my role. Maybe I should just inspire people. Well, how do you inspire people today? It doesn't matter how many leadership trainings you attend. You inspire people by example, okay? So that's why in Scrum at Scale, I recommend you guys take a look at it. I talk a lot about Scrum at Scale on my CSM training. So on Scrum at Scale, you'll learn that the very first Scrum team needs to create in the company is the executive action team. It's a Scrum team made of company executives, all right? Because the board must be aligned, and lack of alignment sends confusing signals, all right? So Simon Sinek, the guy that created the Golden Circle, he mentions people don't buy what you do. People buy why you do it. So redefine or validate the purpose of the enterprise. And people forgot about the purpose of the enterprise. Isn't that crazy? Why you're here? Why do you wake up in the morning and come to work? Right? Well, actually, nowadays, why do you wake up in the morning for your home office activities? Right? The why is the purpose. What's the purpose? What's the purpose of an enterprise? What's the purpose of a company? And is this a match with your own personal purpose? If you don't care about that nowadays as a company executive, well, I'm going to tell you something. You should be working for the competition. Define the capabilities underlying agility, all right? Responsiveness, versatility, flexibility, resilience, and so on. Define the meaning of these capabilities and regularly examine the relevance of their agility-related capabilities. So kind of have measures of normal measures and kind of try to pump up these values continuously across all Scrum teams. At the end of the day, remember that agility is a journey, not a destination. Okay, so a transformation project has a beginning and it has an end. It must have an end. So what's the ROI of this project? Treat this as a project, beginning, middle, end. All right. Many customers don't do that because it's very hard, because it's so big, so it encompasses so many companies, I mean, so many departments and people, right? But you need to treat this as a project. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed today's webinar. Open for questions. You feel free to contact me directly, or you can contact KnowledgeHut over here. I am offering online CSM trainings. If you guys enjoyed the presentation, I go and delve into the details of all these things into my CSM trainings, specifically for change agents, aka Scrum Masters, right? And CSPO trainings, specifically for product owners. I am offering these trainings through KnowledgeHut. I think you can Google my name over there, CSM online, and you should find some of the trainings offered by me. So thank you very much, and let me know if you guys have any questions.
Great, thank you, Heitor. That was a nice presentation again. Can we request all the attendees and participants to type in any questions that you have?